This is going to be a very dry video. Hi, I'm Kent and welcome to Turn a Wood Bowl. Today I'm going to show you how I made my drying box for drying bowl blanks. Now on this channel you've seen me create bowl blanks by cutting cylinders out of logs, by coring them and roughing them out, and you've seen me core them or take out multiple bowl blanks from one chunk of wood. But what we haven't really talked about is the drying process, and that's a critical step in getting bowl blanks ready for turning their final bowls and not having cracks. Now, if you've handled wood or raw timber, whether it's a log that somebody gave you or some ditch wood that you found in the ditch somewhere, or if you're taking down a great big tree and you want to know how to cut that tree up properly and process all that wood to optimize the yield for bowl blanks, and the biggest part, to avoid cracking, well, you're going to want to check out my Tree to Bowl Understanding Green Wood online course. In this course, I cover everything you need to know about processing wood and how to avoid cracks. So check that out. In this video, I'm going to show you more about the drying process and how I made a drying box. But to understand the whole process of working with green wood, you're going to want to check out that course. What is a drying box? Well, first of all, we need to make a definition here. I'm going to use the word dry or drying a lot in this video, and what I really mean is equalized. Wood is always holding moisture. Even if you inherited an heirloom piece of furniture from your grandparents, that wood has moisture in it. Yes, it is equalized to your environment, meaning there's humidity in the air and the wood absorbs it. Think of wood fibers almost like a sponge. They're going to absorb whatever's in the ambient air around it. So wood is technically never dry to the point where there's no moisture in it. There's always some moisture in it, but we're not going to get into that so much here. Again, check out that course. But we're going to talk about drying wood and bringing it down to a temperature or down to a moisture content where it's not going to move much. And that's our biggest thing with making bowls. When we turn a green bowl or green piece of wood into a bowl and we final turn it right off the log while it's wet, it's going to warp and distort. Now, many times that's pretty cool. It can look really good. Once turned bowls are fine. But if you're looking for a really round bowl that's going to be really true and not be warped or distorted, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to twice turn it. And I've got a video all about twice turning. You want to check that out. And you're going to rough turn it once, you're going to dry the bowl, and then you're going to turn the final bowl. And that final turn piece, because it's already dry, it's not going to warp or distort like it would if it were green or fresh. That's why we're using the drying box. Okay, so there are a lot of different ways to make drying boxes. So a drying box basically has two principles. It is well insulated and there's a heat source so that it is creating warmth and moving moisture away from the bowl blanks and drying the bowls. Now, if we were to take a roughed bowl and just stick it on a shelf, the rule of thumb is 1 year of time for every inch of wood thickness, or about 25 millimeters, 2.5 centimeters. That's a long time for a lot of people, and it's not too exciting to have to put something on a shelf and forget about it for a year. So that is why we create a drying box. Now, a drying box is not the magic pill. This is not going to be like a microwave. Now, there is microwave drying, and I've got a video on that. You can check that out as well. But this is the next best thing, and this is a great way to do batch drying with mini bowl blanks. What's great about this drying box is it's relatively passive. You can fill it up with wet bowl blanks and just leave it and let it do its thing, and you can come back after a period of time and they'll be dry. Now, it's not going to be as fast as microwave drying, but it's going to be a lot faster than a year. What does it take? Well, it all depends on the different tree species and how much moisture is in those bowl blanks. But many times these bowl blanks are dry within a few weeks, 4, maybe 6, possibly 8 weeks. These bowl blanks are dry. Now, I hear you guys going, wait a minute, I don't want to wait 8 weeks. Well, it's nature, and we kind of need to cooperate with nature. You can force it to do different things, but if you work with it, it's really not that bad. And what I've found is I'll go about doing other turnings. So this is going to be somewhat problematic if you have one bowl and you really need to get it done for a gift for somebody, for an event that's coming up. If that's the case, I recommend doing the microwave drying. The process I'm showing you here with this box is really designed for doing many bowl blanks all at once, and you basically set it and forget it. The box needs to be insulated and have a heat source. So one of the ways you can do this, and there's several ways to do this, is to create and build a box. And I used home insulation. This is foam insulation that's about 1 inch thick, and I use a really sharp utility knife to score the pieces. Basically, you cut almost all the way through, and then you can snap the material. And then you can cut out a door in the front of it. Now, what I did is I basically cut out the 6 sides of a box, and then I cut the center door panel, and I kept that flush. Now, a quick note here, something you want to really make sure that you do when you do this is have really sharp new utility knife blades. As soon as a blade seems like it's dull, you want to switch it out, because if you have a dull knife and you drag it across this foam, it's going to start tearing the foam and you're going to have a real rough edge, and you don't want that. So use a sharp blade and you'll have a nice clean cut. So what I did for the door of this piece is I cut out the panel flush. The foam is naturally snug, so this panel will fit in there, except if I push it, it's going to fall through, and if I want to pull it out, it's not very easy. So what I created was, I created another panel that's bigger than the door, that's going to be the outside of the door, and that's going to have a lip that goes all the way around the door opening. And then on the inside of that door, I put another piece on the top, and this is going to create a connecting point or a groove that the door can fit into the top of the frame. So what I do is I take the door and I place it up into the top of the door opening and then push the bottom in, and I'm set. Now, to open the door, I simply pull from the bottom and then I slide it out of the top section, and that's all there is to it. It's super simple. Now, the other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need some air vents. The way this works is we're going to use convection, or we're going to use airflow. We're going to use airflow down low, which is going to be cooler, and we're going to have warmer air that rises inside the box. So we need an opening at the bottom of the box, and we need an opening at the top of the box. And what this is going to do is the opening at the bottom of the box is going to draw in cooler air. Inside the box, our heat source, which we'll talk about that in a second, our heat source is going to warm the air inside the box. While that air is warming, it's also going to be collecting the moisture or the humidity that's inside those bowl blanks, and that's going to rise inside this box. When we have the top of the box open, that air is going to escape and move out there. And this is all going to work passively. Yes, you can add fans to this, you can make this more complicated, but I can tell you from experience that this box works really well passive with a simple opening at the bottom and an opening at the top. The heat will rise and it'll pull it right out. So there's a natural airflow that occurs with the air coming in the bottom and flowing out the top. And as it goes floating out the top, it's carrying moisture from the bowl blanks with it. It's exactly what we want. For the heat source, I use a simple shop lamp, and I'm putting a 60 to 75 watt light bulb. I found that a 100 watt light bulb is a little too much. I've had bowl blanks that were near the light bulb start to crack. They're drying a little too quickly. And a 60 to 75 watt light bulb brings the temperature inside the box to about 90 degrees, which works great. It's warm, but it's not hot. And again, we're not cooking. And I want to make this clear too. This is not a kiln. I don't like the term kiln because kiln kind of implies a lot of heat. It's usually used in the process for pottery and other things like that, where it's a lot of heat in a kiln. This is not a kiln. This is not an oven. We're not trying to cook the wood. We're only trying to warm the air around the bowl blanks to coax the moisture out of those wood cells slowly and gradually. Remember, with wood, especially green wood, anything that we do super quick or dramatically is going to cause potential problems and cracking. And that's the problems that we have with wood are cracking, and we don't want cracking. So we want to do everything gradually and slow. That being said, the temperature in here being consistently warm is going to accelerate the moisture leaving these bulb blanks compared to just leaving this on your shelf in your shop. The heat source I'm using is a lamp with a light bulb, and that's it. You basically just leave it on. Now, because I'm using a 60 to 75 watt light bulb, I don't have to worry about it getting too hot, and I don't need to turn it off and turn it on and come back to it. I just leave it on. The 100 watt light bulb was a little bit too hot. It was bringing the temperatures up over 100 degrees, and that was a little more than what I needed. So basically, by controlling the wattage of the light bulb, I was able to control the temperature in there. Now, yes, you can put a thermostat on this, you can put different temperature controls on it, you can put a fan in this if you want, but again, you don't need to. This works really well as a passive setup. Now, when I first made this box, it's pretty big, but it could have been made smaller. I would probably make it a little less deep. I like the height of it because it allows that air to warm up and rise and travel out of that cavity pretty well. And it does a great job of drying the bulb blanks. I'm finding on average in about 6 weeks, my bulb blanks are ready to be final turned, and we're pretty much done at that point. So 6 weeks compared to a full year of waiting time is pretty fantastic when you think about it. That's really, really good. There are a couple things that can be really beneficial that will help out in the long run. I put some screens inside the vent holes. That is to prevent critters from coming and going, because a nice warm box is a great invitation for insects and potentially reptiles to come in and hang out. So I didn't really want that. So I taped screen panels inside the box so that prevented any kind of critters from coming into the box. There are a couple things that you're going to want to do with the bulb blanks when you put them in the box. And first off, you're going to want to write the species name on the bottom of the bulb blank and put the date. I know when you do this the first time, you're going to think, oh, I'll remember that. But you won't. Trust me, I know you won't remember it, because eventually you're going to have so many bulb blanks in there and you're going to forget about how long they've been in there and you won't remember. Plus, the wood will change a little bit in color and tone from when you initially put it in. So some of the wood species start to look like one another after they've been in the box for a little while. Plus, you're going to forget how long they've been in there. I've put pieces inside the bowl or inside the box, and they've gotten moved around and pushed to the back, and they've been in there for a long period of time. And that's the other great thing about doing a low temperature passive system like this. You're not going to over dry a piece, and being in the box too long is not going to be a problem. It's just going to make sure that that wood is equalized. That's it. You're not going to harm the wood by keeping it in there for a long period of time. So, but put the date on it because it's going to help you a lot. Now, the other thing you need to do is you need to have spacers between the bowls so that you have good airflow. If you stack a bunch of wet bulb blanks on top of each other, those bowls will interlock and you're going to have spaces in between them that aren't getting airflow, and you're going to get mold in there. And if you get mold in here too, also don't freak out about that. That will turn right off. That's usually just on the surface of the wood, and I wouldn't worry about that. But to prevent the mold, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to get some scrap sticks, and you put 3 inside a bowl, spread them out evenly, and then set your next bowl on top of that. And as you can see, this allows airflow to go in underneath that bowl and inside the lower bowl, so you got plenty of airflow, and that's going to be a great way to do this. If you get a bunch of bulb blanks in there and they've been in there for a while, it's also not a bad idea to open it up every once in a while and move them all around so that you're getting some good airflow. Other than that, there's really not much to do. You basically place the bowls in there and wait, and you can come back and you can weigh the bowls. You can also weigh them before you put them in there if you want. You can write the weight on the bowls. That's really the way you're going to know. But you can check them with a moisture meter. After about 6 weeks or so, you're going to have bulb blanks that are ready to be final turned without any worry of them warping or cracking. And that's what this is all about. Another thing that's a simple, convenient thing to add to your box is a thermometer with a humidity reader on it. And they have these. I've got a link to this one. I'll put it below in the description. But it has 2 probes, one for temperature and one for humidity. And those can be put through the side of the box, and the thermometer can be positioned on the box anywhere you want on the outside. So without opening the box and letting all that warmth out, you can see what the temperature is inside. Now, I've actually put two of these on my box. I put one with the probes down low in the box, and I put one with the probes up high. And this way I can see that temperature differential between the bottom of the box and the top of the box. Also, I can see what the relative humidity is at the bottom of the box compared to the top of the box. And as long as there's a difference, I know that everything's working. I've got my airflow going in, and it's going in and out and carrying everything out. Now, I can also adjust these little side vents. I can position them where they're partially open or closed just from the friction of the foam in the slots. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it will actually pinch inside this opening, and I can open it partially or open it all the way, however I'd like. And again, I can see what the airflow is like by looking at these thermometers. If you'd like, you can go out each day and you can write down the humidity in the box. This is something that you need to be aware of. In an ideal situation, you might have several of these boxes. If you're doing a lot of bulb lengths, or if you're processing a tree, for instance, you would take bulb lengths, enough bulb lengths to fill up this box that were all cut at the same time. Basically, they have all the same moisture content. You seal the box up and you forget it until everything's dry. That's one way of doing it. Now, if you're like me and I come across different species of wood and I might get one or two pieces of one and I might have a whole tree of another one, and I don't process all of them at the same time, I'm kind of doing them in pieces, I kind of mix and match the pieces in my box. It's not the most ideal way to do it, because what's happening then is I've got bulb lengths that have dried considerably, maybe after a few weeks of being in the box, but then I introduce a more wet bulb length or several more wet bulb lengths. Well, that moisture adds to the humidity inside the box. So it's not the best way to do it. It still works. And what I've found is I kind of put bulb lengths in the box and just forget about them. I'm not sitting there thinking, well, I've got to watch the time and I got to know that this is going to be done in so many weeks so that I can get it on the lathe, and I just kind of forget about them. What I've found is I've come back and I've found bulb lengths that have been in there for over a year, and that's not uncommon. And I know they're really good and dry, so I don't have to worry about it. So I know that if they had sat on the shelf, if they're an inch thick for a year, they'd be dry. Well, in that warm environment that's expelling all the moisture, that I know for certain that they're dry. Do what works best for you. If you know that you're going to do small batches of bulb lengths periodically, and you may have 6 or 8 bulb lengths from a particular species, then perhaps you make some boxes that are a little bit smaller and have multiple boxes. And that way you can close one up with fresh bulb lengths in it, maybe put a post-it note on the side of it as to when you put those in and what the species was, and then start using another box for a different species of wood. That's the best way to really be doing it. And you know, I thought about this after I made this big, huge box. I started thinking, how cool would it be to use this foam box principle and make some relatively narrow boxes that could be mounted on a wall, perhaps in your shop, with insulated doors on them, so they act like cabinets. So you can make a dryer cabinet on the wall, and you could do multiple ones of these. And the dryer cabinets could have a heat source in the bottom of them, so that it's moving the moisture out, just like this box is doing. But they could all be stored on the wall, and you basically just grab whatever you need whenever you're ready to turn. If you've got the space for something like that, that could be really neat as well. All right, guys, well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you see that a drying box is relatively passive, very simple to make. It does not have to be complicated, and you can make this in a weekend and be drying bulb lengths in no time. Now, I am going to be making a little bit more sophisticated drying box soon. I've acquired an old stand-up freezer that no longer works, but it's an excellent insulated box with a nice opening and closing door, and I'm going to fit this with a heating element, and I'm going to try to do a thermostat and a control device in this system. So it's going to be, that system will be a little bit more elaborate than what I'm showing you here in this video, but I'll share all that with you guys in a future video, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, just know that you can make a drying box pretty much out of any kind of insulation material and a simple heat source, and you can have dry bulb lengths that are ready to be final turned without any warping or cracking. All right guys, if you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor and click that like button below the screen. I greatly appreciate you guys doing that. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Be sure to check out my website, turnawoodbowl.com. I've got everything you're going to want to know about turning bowls over at turnawoodbowl.com. And be sure to check out my courses there. I have a menu link at the top of my website that says courses. Click on that and you can see all the courses available, where I'm going to give you every little bit of detailed information that you're going to need to accelerate your bowl turning abilities. All right guys, as always, until next time, happy turning.